Oh, Brett, it's been a while since we've done a tractor talk video.
It's been too long.
In today's video, we're going to be talking about one of the most unique garden tractors you may have never heard of. Steiner. Alright, Brett. So to tell this story, we're going to have to go back, way back to rural 1964 Orville, Ohio, deep in Amish country. Now, Orville, Ohio, if you're not familiar with it, is actually the home of a very well-known other company, and that is going to be J.M. Smuckers, who makes jelly. And they actually started in Orville, Ohio in 1897. And they're just a few short miles from the Steiner family farm. So on this Steiner family farm lived Marvin and Mary Steiner, who had 7 boys. Marvin was well known in the area for his fabrication skills, and he actually built specialized farm equipment dating back into the 1940s. So while the 7 boys were growing up from an early childhood, they quickly learned fabrication skills and welding skills from their father, and they put them to good use later in life, which we're going to be talking about in today's video.
The 7 boys would have been Glenn, Roy, Richard, Elam, Stephen, Mark, and Dallas.
So when the oldest boy, Glenn Steiner, was attending local Eastern Mennonite College in 1964 to 1968, he actually started building his very first 2 agricultural tractors.
So what made these 2 machines unique is that they were articulating. Kind of like a front end loader that they articulated. So the first one was painted Oliver Green and the second one was painted International Red.
And they both had Wisconsin engines.
No, Ohio engines?
No, Wisconsin. So after a brief stint of teaching elementary school, the eldest brother, Glenn Steiner, actually started to go to work for M-Glow Compressor Company, who is well known to this day. They make air compressors, and he started working for them in about the year 1970. So a few short years later, in about 1973, Glenn used his work connection with M-Glow and was able to source out some excess blue paint, and his next 3 machines would have been painted with M-Glow blue. And each of these machines would have went to a different Steiner brother. They all wanted their own machine, and they all ended up with their very own custom Steiner tractor of their own.
It's pretty cool.
All right, Brett, so when did the Steiner brothers actually start Steiner Tractor?
On July 4th, Independence Day of 1974.
That is a pretty cool day to start such an awesome American company. So the official tractor company name would have been the Steiner Tractor Corporation, and it was in their hometown of Orville, Ohio.
So these early machines featured Kohler K341Ss, which were 16 horsepower single-cylinder gas engines. However, later on they would have been substituted for V-twin Briggs & Stratton 16 horsepower engines.
So these early tractors would be painted the Steiner red that everyone's come to know and love, and they would have been called the S16 Traction Master.
Which I gotta say, Traction Master is a really cool name for a tractor.
We've talked about this in other garden tractor talk videos, and you have to admit, the names they came up with back in the day, I'd say really the 70s was actually like the cream crop time of garden tractors. I'm actually thinking of doing a video on the best years to be a garden tractor enthusiast, which in my opinion would be about 1972 until 1975. There was so many different offerings of different brands and models during that 3 or so year period. I think that would make a really cool video. Let us know in the comments if you think that would make a good video, and if you do, we'll end up doing it.
Traction Master.
So they would quickly finish out the rest of the 7 tractors so that each of the Steiner brothers had their own custom tractor.
And then in 1976, a nearby machine shop named Creeder Machine Shop started selling Steiner tractors.
And they remain one of the premier Steiner tractor dealers to this day.
Steiner still sells tractors?
Yeah.
Wow. A lot of these companies went The way of the wind.
Well, let's keep on going with the history of the Steiner brand. So in 1980 is when they upgraded to an 18 horsepower Briggs & Stratton engine, and hence the S18 was born. We've talked about this too in other videos. It seems like brands, the natural progression is to get bigger and bigger engines. People just want more and more power, especially if you're going to name the tractor the Traction Master.
If you're going to name it the Traction Master, it needs power to put down all that traction with.
So they also ended up coming up with the S20, and then in 1986 is when the second generation of the S20 was released. So what would some of the models been during this time, Brett?
So the first model would have been the S16, which was made from 1975 to 1981. Taking a little step up, you had the S18 made from 1980 to 1982. And then the top dog at the time would have been the S20 made from 1980 to 1987.
Cool. They also had the ST18, which was made from 1980 to 1982, and the ST20, which was made from 1982 until 1987.
So unfortunately, in 1988, the Steiner family did decide to sell the company, and they sold it to Ransoms PLC of Ipswich, England.
So during this time, they continued making the tractors, and you could either get them in the Steiner red, or the tractors that were destined for Ransoms dealers would have been painted in their traditional green color. It was also during this time that the model designations were changed. So instead of an S, it went to a 4. So instead of an S18 or S20, you would have had the 418, 420, etc. What models would they have had during this time?
They had the 410, 415, 420, 425, 428, 430, 440, 450, and 450 DX.
There was quite a few offerings from the Steiner line under new Ransoms ownership. So some big changes came up. They moved production to Dalton, Ohio, and in 1996, 3 of the 7 Steiner brothers would go off to start Venture Products, which came out with the Ventrac machines. So if you've ever wondered if Ventrac and Steiner are related, the answer is absolutely yes. The Steiner family started Steiner in 1975 or 1974, depending on how you want to look at it. And like we said, they started Venture Products, which built the Ventrac machines in 1996. So Ventrac and Steiner have the same lineage. So shortly thereafter, youngest brother Dallas Steiner becomes CEO/president of Venture Products, and he remains CEO/president to this day. So what would the first Venture Products machine have been, Brett?
That would have been the 2320, and what was interesting about it is it was actually designed to be used by handicapped people, which I find a little interesting.
So I'm not positive of this fact, but I do believe one of the Steiner brothers may have been handicapped, which may have been the reasoning for this machine. But it's a very cool and noble thing to do by the Steiner family to make a machine that everyone can use. Yeah. So a couple of years later, in 1998, Ransoms gets sold to Textron Inc., who also bought the Jacobson brand back in 1978. It's also during this year, 1998, that Ventrac releases the legendary 4000 series machines.
So that's 2 legendary 4000 series that we know of.
Yep, you got the Ingersoll 4000 series, and if you want to see a video on that, please click up here. But let's get back to the Steiners.
So what's cool is that with the 4000 series, they were actually offered with 2 different engine options. You could either get a Kubota gas engine or a Mitsubishi diesel engine. But I'm a little confused as to why it wasn't a Mitsubishi gas engine or a Kubota diesel, since I feel like both companies are better known for the opposite engine type.
Didn't take long until they replaced the Mitsubishi diesel with a Daihatsu diesel.
Daihatsu.
Is that what I said?
Daihatsu.
Daihatsu.
You said Daihatsu.
Daihatsu.
It's Daihatsu.
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 And in 1999, the next year, is when we saw the 3000 series Ventracs come out, which was a little smaller framed machine, and these became really popular in not only the United States, but also many countries in Europe.
What's next? The 6000 series of loader tractors.
I noticed a trend. They had the 4000 and the 3000 series, just like Ingersoll.
So what's next? The 6000.
Coincidence?
I think
I
not.
don't know. So in 2002 is when the 4000 series got split into the 4100 series air-cooled and the 4200 series liquid-cooled engines.
Oh.
So these models had varying range engines, but I believe the two most popular were 25 and 31 horsepower. They had some other models. And these became immensely popular with not only contractors to do snow removal, lawn care, mowing, leaf removal type chores, but also many municipalities, parks, all across the United States and the world.
I'm sure like Cousin Jim would use this at his kind of
Oh
tractor.
yeah. I mean, these things have the size of basically a garden tractor, but the four-wheel drive and the articulation just make them so handy at climbing hills and doing tough chores and powering these big snow blowers through toughest drifts. Have you ever seen a video of a Ventrac or a Steiner blowing snow?
I've seen one of a Ventrac, and it was
They're
immensely
pretty-
impressive.
They are impressive. I would say they're probably the best known for like sidewalk machines where you only need like a 4-foot wide swath. But I mean, these are things just cut through the snow like a hot knife through butter.
They really do. Yeah, I feel like that is such an overused expression, but that is the best way to describe how these things just plow through anything.
Through the years, there was about 23 or so models between the Ventrac 3000 and the Ventrac 4000 series models. And there was also a couple of oddball 2000 and 7000 series Ventracs in there as well.
A Ventrac had a 7000 series too?
Yep. Another coincidence with Ingersoll.
So another cool thing is that before we mentioned Creator Machine Shop and how they're one of the largest dealers to this day for Steiner and Ventrac. Well, in 2005, all the Ventrac stuff happened because Creator began selling Ventrac machines.
And in 2006, Textron sells Steiner to
Commercial Ground Care Inc.
out of Pennsylvania. If you guys want to see a map of Ohio, which is actually the biggest Amish state in the United States, so Ohio has the largest population of Amish people in the United States. I believe number 2 is Pennsylvania and number 3 is Indiana. But take a look at this map and you'll see that Orville is right in Amish country, or should we say Steiner country. So Venture Products actually ends up getting sold to Toro in 2020, but the Steiner family carries on and produces the Tillmore tractor, which I believe they still sell to this day. So we certainly hope you guys enjoyed today's video on the Steiner and Ventrac line of tractors. It really shows American ingenuity, and the Steiner family has to be one of the most cool, impressive family stories with tractors that I've ever heard.
Me too. It's an all-American story without the they closed down ending that we've come to expect from these stories.
So let us know in the comments below if you've heard of Steiner, if you've heard of Ventrac, if you have one, and what do you think of it? See you next time.
Hey Siri, show me a picture of the Steiner brothers.
Here are some images of Steiner brothers from the web. Have a look.
That doesn't look right.